Yeah.
Make sure my
Hello, everybody.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome to another episode of To a Woman's Heart. And we're doing a part 2 this week from last week to starting over after divorce, but with the kids. So we're going to go around the table and introduce everybody. I'm Renee.
I am Denise.
And I am Cherie.
I was like, who am I?
All right. So last week we had a conversation with Mom about starting over after divorce. And the girls had some things they wanted to kind of bring to the forefront. So, what's the first thing y'all want to address this week?
First, let's put a disclaimer out there. They tried to play me on this last week episode.
First, y'all, like, comment, share, subscribe, share this video, subscribe to this channel, bring any other ladies in, and ask all type of questions. We love your feedback, okay? Thank you, guys. We love you for tuning in.
You're so extra, Denise.
Okay, Cherie, so you want to do a disclaimer?
Disclaimer, they tried to play me last week. I do not have a problem with my mother dating at all. I welcome her dating. She can get a man, you know, it's just rules to this thing. That's all.
What's your rules?
Listen, well, she date, he just has to understand. You are not number one, sir. I am number one, okay? I am a brat. I will put that disclaimer out there for any man who wants to date my mama. Yes, she has grown children, but her youngest child is a brat. It just is what it is. But she can date. She can get married again. Go ahead, girl. Do you, sis?
Okay.
But I am a brat.
Denise, do you have a disclaimer?
I don't have a disclaimer.
No, because they tried to play me last week.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine that her and you know, I will say that her and my dad have been together for a very long time, right? They were married for like 35 years, right? So you know, I think the misperception is that people automatically think that maybe because they're all we've known for so long. And they have split, and I think we're close with both of them. I think we have an equal relationship with the both of them. But I'm not where Cherie is at because Cherie has been with my mom the longest, right? So I just think that their relationship is different from my relationship with her. So I don't have a problem with her dating. I think that she should date. I think that she should do whatever, you know what I'm saying, makes her happy. I do think that there will be like a breakdown, you know, when you're so used to being accessible to someone and then they do find somebody to, you know, who they begin to share their life with. Then it becomes like, okay, now I got to wait, you know, now you got a plan with her. Like, okay, I'm thinking about, I want to go shopping with you next week. You know, are you free? You know, that type of deal. But outside of that, and I think Cherie will be okay. I think once, you know what I'm saying, she finds somebody, you know what I'm saying, and he comes in the fold, you know, I think genuinely, I think that she will be okay. But I think it'll just be like a transitioning period that'll cause, you know what I'm saying, and that don't just go for her, that goes for my dad as well, because he has, you know what I'm saying, dated, you know, and so it's, I mean, and don't think like, for me, the same rules that apply to her applies to him too. So it's not like, it's like you're not like picking sides. It's just like, because they have those same stipulations and rules for us when we were dating. I mean, I'm no longer dating, but when we were dating, you know what I'm saying, there were certain stipulations that they called out, you know what I'm saying? Oh, we got to meet them, and, you know, all these other things, you know what I'm saying? And so
you just taking the same precautions.
Yeah, it's like the same thing.
Okay, so last week, a point came up that needs to be stressed. Now, even though they are divorced, they still have a good relationship.
They do. They have a really good relationship. They could still be amicable towards one another.
Mhm.
You know, I have things at my house, and they both come. You know what I'm saying?
They can coexist in one spot.
Right.
Which
Now,
is very important when
right.
people are divorced and you have children together, whether they're underage, grown, or whatever, because it can be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because we've been put in some situations where it's been
Very uncomfortable.
very uncomfortable, and it's not comfortable for us because you begin to feel like, who am I supposed to choose? What am I supposed to say? I got to be careful what I say here, there, and there. So for all my divorcees out there, or soon to be divorcees, please, please, please try your best.
Right.
To not make your kids uncomfortable, because it's very uncomfortable for us when we do have stuff, because at the end of the day, they're still both our parents. And when Denise has something, I have something, I'm not going to have something not invite my mama because my daddy coming, or vice versa. So,
So how do you deal with those emotions in the middle of the divorce, and you feel like you have to be sensitive in what you say and what you do in a certain situation?
You want to go first?
No, you can go first.
I would say for me, the beginning, it was very difficult for me. It was extremely difficult for me. Number one, first is I am the youngest. Mm-hmm. So I was at home the longest. And when all this first started coming up, I was still underage. I was still in high school. So I didn't really know how to take it per se, because again, as Denise stated, all we've ever known is mom and dad. That's all we've ever known throughout our whole entire lives. Mm-hmm. So now you're talking about them separating, or whatever the case may be. And I was just like, well, y'all need to figure this out, because I don't really like the way this mm-hmm. feels for me. Mm-hmm. So the first part of it was super emotional for me, because mm-hmm. I didn't know what to do. Denise was already gone by this time. She had moved out. She was doing her own thing, and it was just me at home. And I'm underage, and I felt like I was being put in the middle to choose mm-hmm. which parent I wanted to live with, or which parent I wanted to do this with. And it was just, for me, it was extremely uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But I will say, as I got older, thank God, in prayer, I was able to get past it and be like, look, y'all do what y'all gonna do. It is what it is. If y'all gonna be together, great. If y'all not, I'm okay with that too. At this point, in my in my late 20s?
31.
Oh crap. My early 30s now, I'm at the point where I'm like, look, I just want my parents to be happy. Right. Regardless of the fact if it can't be with each other, I'm okay with it. As long as whoever they're with, they're happy. But I will say to people out there who, or kids who are going through it, it is an adjustment. It's gonna take you some time to get used to it. Right. But I think it's a conversation that you have to have with both of your parents to say, hey, look, listen, this is how I'm feeling about it. I need y'all to fix this. Because it was a conversation I had to have with my mother and father. Like, look, I love both of y'all. I'll go to the end of the world for both of y'all, but this other stuff I can't be involved in, because it has nothing really to do with me. And I don't think sometimes they realize that they do it, or that they're doing it on purpose. Sometimes I think it just kind of happens. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do come from a different perspective for Sheree, because by the time mom and them were like transitioning, I was gone. I think I had just got married.
No, you had been married for a while, remember? Because you were married when we stayed in Westchester.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, you had been married for a few years by then.
Yeah, so, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. You're right. So, I guess when I think the way they told us, it was like indirect, but it wasn't like direct, like we're getting a divorce, mm-hmm. right? It wasn't like fully like I'm getting a divorce. This is what it is. It was, I don't think it was never that. I don't think neither one of them ever said like, hey, we decided to get a divorce. It was just like,
we're just taking some time apart.
Right. I'm going to live over here and they're going to live over here. So that part, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. But then you begin to have conversations. So now I'm having conversations with my mom, and now I'm having conversations with my dad. So now I'm hearing my dad's perspective, and now I'm hearing my mom's perspective. And I don't think it was intentional. And I think that I was in a different space too because I was married. So I think for me, with the relationship that I had with them, it was different. You know what I'm saying? So some things that mama was going through, I could kind of relate to because I'm like, yeah, my husband do that too. You know what I'm saying? So I think in that part, like Cherie felt more in the middle because she was in the house, right? I wouldn't say that I felt more in the middle, but it was like I got both ends of the story. Like mama would tell me her side, well, he did this. And then daddy come and say, well, she didn't tell you she did this. And so I felt like in the middle, like in a different type of way. I wasn't in the house, but it was almost like, well, she did this, so, but she didn't tell you this. She only told you half truth, and he only told you half truths. So then, and I think I got to the point, I think me and Cherie had a conversation a couple of times. It's like, whatever y'all decide at this point,
So yeah,
whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to love you no different. You know, it is just kind of what it is at that point. But I do agree that, you know, it did almost make it feel like, oh, well, I do understand what he's saying. I do understand what she's saying. You know what I'm saying? And that part was kind of hard.
So how is the pressure when you feel like you being tugged from one end to the other? How did you and Cherie deal with the pressure of the tug of war?
I don't, you know what? For me and mama, I think we kind of bumped heads a couple times because, and even a couple times now, because she may not have meant it directly. And mother, if you're watching, I'm not saying that you meant it directly. But I think that at sometimes for me specifically, I think she felt like I was taking his side, right? Because I understood where he was coming from. And then sometimes on the flip side of that, I felt like daddy felt like, well, you just taking up for her because that's your mama. And then, you know, at one point he kind of dropped me in like, well, you a woman bucket, you know, type deal. And it was like, well, what she said kind of made sense. And even on the flip side of that for mama, it was like, well, what daddy said kind of made sense. You know what I'm saying? So I think you just have to work through it and know that I think people are always dealing and basing off emotions. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that they was being malicious behind it. I just think it was like a purging. And I don't think what they knew was, it's like in them purging it out,
it was affecting you all.
Right. We had to like purge it out too because so many people looked at me and Cherie and just thought we had the most perfect life because you know what I'm saying?
We grew up in a 2-parent household.
Right,
and relationship for us will be easy.
Right.
Because, you know, our parents were married and it was like.
Right. It was like.
That don't mean nothing.
But it goes to the point that you can see outside the door, but you don't know what's happening behind the door.
Right. And not to say that we had a bad life. I don't think even for our, you know, our cousins who we grew up as like sisters, I don't even really consider like, you know, our cousins, Tamika, Shanae, them, like I don't really consider them my cousins. So them not our cousins. Those are like our brothers and our sisters. And that's kind of how we grew up. But like, it was just stuff that happened like just in our part of the house that nobody never really knew. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think even that was like a struggle because most of our friends didn't come from 2-parent households. So they really looked at me and Cherie as like perfect. Like, y'all got it. And then when people found out that they were getting divorced, it was like they looked at us like,
y'all been lying all this time. Y'all put up a facade. And
right. Like,
I wouldn't say I got that, but I would say
I got that.
More so like, are you okay?
They was like, yeah. And it was like, we don't come from a perfect house. You know what I'm saying? Just because you saw mommy and daddy together, that didn't necessarily mean that, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't struggles in the background. Even now with them being divorced, sometimes what Cherie can attest to now, some things that we're dealing with on this side, it's still like kind of a struggle. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like always peaches and cream and, you know, because like I said, when they was purging, we purged too. Like, we going through the motions. Our emotions is just different from theirs.
Okay, so there's a question. Did either of you ever resent your parents for not trying hard to make it work?
Yes.
I
Why?
would say I did at first too.
I would say my younger years, I did.
Why?
I felt like, again, because I'm the youngest and I've been there the longest and I heard more stuff. So I felt like, Mama, maybe you could have did some stuff differently. Even Dad, like, Daddy, you could have did some stuff differently, and maybe things would be, different. We'll have our happy family, as people quote on it and call it. But then you have to realize people grow apart. Things change. People change, and all the time they don't grow together. And for whatever the reason may be. Like I said, I went through it early on, but as I got older, you kind of learn, and you just kind of just take it for what it is.
So here's the question. So do you think if your parents, your mother and your father had set you down and say, look, me and your dad is going to get a divorce. We don't want you all to feel a certain way, but it's going to be a transition period. We understand it's going to be a little rough and a little rocky for you from, the beginning as we go through this transition. Would have made it better?
I would say for me, maybe yes. Because I was in my senior year in high school when all of this first started going down, and I got so much stuff thrown at me at one time. For me, it was just too much.
Overload.
It was overload. I had Daddy saying certain stuff. I had Mama saying certain stuff. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I'm like, hold on. Give me a minute. Let me process what's going on here, because I'm 17 at the time. I'm lost. And it's not as if, though, okay, I can lean on Denise. I mean, I can to a certain degree, but she out there doing her own thing. Right. She's not in the house with me anymore. So when she was in the house with me, of course, it made some things just easier, because I can go across the house and say, Denise, X, Y, Z. Whereas now I got to catch you when I can.
Right.
She could have called me though. I think it would have been easier. And to answer whoever asked the question, do I resent them? I don't know if I would use the word resent, because I think everything happens for a reason. Everything has its place and its time. Do I believe that if they were both willing equally, like, to put in the work to make it work, I think they could have went on further. But I don't know if I would use the word resent. And I really, 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 really would have hoped that they would have just sat us down and said, hey, we're getting a divorce. They literally, I think Mama said it, like, when she finally went to go do it, she was like, I'm getting a divorce. Right. And I think at that point, knew.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
this is really happening. Okay.
Right. So you're going to go ahead and move forward. But I think if they would have came to us and said, hey, y'all, we decided that we're just going to go ahead and get the divorce. Just say
prepare you.
Right. That way we could, like Cherie said, we could begin to
digest,
emotionally prepare for what that looks like. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So in the middle of divorce, spoken and unspoken at the same time, and you freshly being into a marriage, did it create some kind of concern for you?
I would say yes, and that was because, side note, I had told Brian, I said, because his mom and dad were almost like my mom and dad. I mean, they come from a different set of issues, but his parents are still legally married, right? And so he and I would have these deep conversations all the time, and I would tell him, look, I don't want to be like your mother and father, and I don't want to be like mine. I don't want us to get, so many years into the marriage, and now all of a sudden we decide that this ain't really where you want to be at.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be, doing all that extra stuff. Now, I will say that it was a lot of things that my mom did help me, and she still does today, help me realize, in my marriage now, that maybe she probably didn't know, back then. But that's, my biggest concern. Me and Brian been married 12 years now. I don't want to get to 20 years plus years and be like,
We call it quits.
Do I still look at you? Because now, even okay, so in my mom and dad's divorce, I make a mental note, and it probably gets on his nerves.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to ask him once a month, like, okay, well, not maybe more than once a month, like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling in the marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, you know what I'm saying, what is? Because I want to try to avoid that. If we saying that we gonna call it quits, let's call it quits while, you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna say while we're young, but
while still in your prime.
Right, while we can still, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
maybe venture off him. And not to say that you can't, you know, move off and do something later, but their divorce and seeing how they went through that transition, I don't want to do that. And I'm very cautious. And I'm also cautious about how it affects Zaria and how she sees it. Right. Because now that's important too. Like,
but you came to the revelation after you went through.
Right. And I don't want her to experience specifically that part of like what me and Cherie had to go through of the divorce part, because I mean it ain't really easy to like, you know, deal with all the time. I mean, eventually like on this side you'd be like, okay, I kind of came through that, but like in the midst of it, it's like black clouds.
Right. So you think communication was not that great
between my mom and dad?
As far as telling us?
As far as, you know.
It was horrible.
Yeah. It was zero.
Like, it was really no communication.
Not at all. It was just like,
this is what we doing.
This is what we doing.
So
that was it.
If they had communicated, if they had asked you how you feel about this, would it made it better?
I don't know say if it made it better, but I think it would have made going through
soften
the process
the glow
a little bit easier.
Right.
Because now I can sit down and say, okay, this is what they doing. Now, where do I fit in an equation? Or what's my next step or whatever the case may be? Because when you just kind of just spring it on somebody, it's like, okay.
How long did it take y'all to adjust? Time frame? Months? Years?
It took a while because they were living in separate houses. I remember because we had been so used to like spending Christmas and stuff together, right?
So
and at one point they was not
they weren't probably in a good space.
They wasn't in a good space
with each other.
Right, they wasn't in a good space with each other. So the holidays made it
a little difficult.
Extremely difficult because you want to be with this side of the family, and then when specifically for me, I still have, you know, my husband's, well, my other half of my family over here, my extended family. So now I got the, you know what I'm saying, make room for them. And now I got to make room for my mom's side. And now I got to see how my dad fits in. And even with him, I think to a certain degree, he kind of used to make up excuses. Because we used to try to like do stuff with him and he would blow us off, and it used to piss me and Cherie off so bad. We used to be so upset with him. Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like I just had to, one day I caught him crying. I was like literally to tears. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, we up here trying to spend time with you and you just like, you got 1,000,001 other things to do. And I don't know in his head if he felt like I'm trying to make it easier for them just to go with their mother. So if they just go with their mother, then, you know, you just kind of catch me like on the rebound, you know, and that kind of pissed us off. Because I'm just like, so like that made it very hard to now, you know, just trying to share stuff. Even when Zari was first born, well, no, they were still in the same house. But like after they split, like just trying to like make sure like she see him and like know who her granddaddy is and know who her grandma is. I mean, that was hard.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And now, you know, you think when you get married, you know, when you in a relationship, you're like, okay, I only got to spend my time between like two families, and that's a struggle. Now you got to figure out. Now I got to go to your house, nah.
And you got to start earlier.
Right. I don't want to get up early on Christmas like that. You know what I'm saying? But thank God they've come around.
They've come a long way.
Right.
Okay, so Cherie, does this affect you in relationships and your outlook on marriage?
Yes.
How does it affect you?
Because I, like Denise said, I think now it's something that I'm very cautious of, that I try to pay attention to. Because again, I don't want to get married in 20 years. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, because it happens to people all the time, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, into it, and they're divorced. So I try to look for those signs of things that I feel like could have been maybe done differently. Maybe they just didn't know. I don't know. So I think for me, that's like, what we doing? How you feeling?
Right.
Yeah. And I tell guys now that I date, at any time, this ain't something you want to do, please let me know.
Right.
Please hurt me now rather hurt than hurt me later. Hurt me up front. Be 100% raw, uncut honesty with me. I need it, because I don't want to. Time is one thing that I've learned that you cannot get back. Right. You can get almost anything else back, but time, once that time is gone, it's gone. So I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste my time. Right. And I don't want to be with somebody for 30 years. Me personally, not speaking to their situation, but I don't want to be with somebody for 30 years and then come at something, oh, we get a divorce. Who really wants to start over after that much time? Not anything to them. It's personally what I don't want to do, because first and foremost, I don't really like dating like that. I don't like the whole process that I got to keep getting to know people over and over again. It's totally annoying to me. So I can avoid that at all costs.
Okay, so here's a question. So parents are divorcing. The kids are sitting in the middle. The father is bashing the mother, and the mother is bashing the father while you're sitting in the middle. What do you think about that?
I'm dead set against it, and I'll tell anybody that don't bash the other parent in front of your kids. Let them figure out whatever it is they need to figure out their relationship with the opposite parent. Kids are so very smart. They're smarter than what people give them credit for. They will figure out whatever it is they need to figure out from about mama, daddy, or whatever. They'll figure that out on their own. Let them have their own relationship with their parent. And sometimes parents, I know it's a venting mechanism and the kids are around, but sometimes you got to be just a little bit more strategic about when you need to vent. I'm not saying don't vent. Don't think he a dirty bastard or whatever he may be to you. That's absolutely fine.
Right.
But just don't do it in the presence of the kids.
Right.
Like, don't, and even as they get older, still don't. Because there's still some things that they may not necessarily want to know about their parent. Right. That's my take.
She said it all. I mean, if you could try to avoid it, because, and to piggyback off what Sheree said, like, you don't already know what type of thoughts that kid already have made up in their head based off what they've seen already. So they probably already made up in my mind, like, oh, my daddy ain't this or my mom ain't that. And they don't need you adding
to that extra
more to
stuff.
You know what I'm saying? Adding on more to stuff later that they gonna end up having to deal with, because essentially what happens is that what we do what we know from how we came up. You see what I'm saying? So now when you got to go sit on somebody's couch, hopefully eventually, now you got to unpack all this baggage, because they already had their thoughts, and then they took your thoughts and put your thoughts on top of their thoughts, and maybe what they thought wasn't right. But please don't bash your kids. I mean, your spouses, your ex-spouse, whatever, in front of your kids if you can. If you're going to cuss them out, cuss out, go in the garage, go outside, and then come back in the house.
Because they need the love.
They do.
Kids need the love. And when kids are sitting in the middle of divorce and they feel like they already have to choose, they already feel like they probably responsible person.
Right.
Cause of the divorce, and then they're going to feel like their parents don't love them.
Right. You're right. Somebody said, what do you say to kids whose parents don't get along? I guess we could speak to that, because they did not get along. For a while,
they did not get along. And for me, because I've been with mama long, I would say for me, it was extremely rough. Because once they split, it was just me and mama. And anybody really who knows me knows that I am a diehard daddy's girl. Like, I love my dad. Like, we've been thick as thieves since I came into this world. That's my dude. It's hard, because again, for me, especially for me, I struggle with I don't want to disappoint either one of them.
Right.
I don't want either one of them to feel as if though I love one
more than
the other, because essentially I felt like that for a few years, I felt like if I did this for mama, daddy would say something.
Mm-hmm.
If I did this for daddy, mama would say something. So what do you do? Like, you're both my parents. What am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And it took, honestly, I had to do a lot of praying. And I just really had to sit down and have a conversation with them and say, look, listen, y'all don't get along. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to need for y'all to find some type of way to coexist because you have children together. So when I'm doing something, I don't want to not invite my daddy because as soon as he walk in the door, you got an attitude.
Right.
And so now I don't want him to feel like he got to walk on eggshells every time he comes around.
Right.
Because when you see him, you want to punch him in the throat.
Right.
Because of what y'all issue with.
Right.
And vice versa for her. Like, I don't want you to feel like you got to walk on eggshells because daddy's around.
Right.
And anybody know my daddy know he's really a big joker. He just likes to like have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And he can really put on his good poker face. Sister Washington, not so much.
Right.
She just gonna sit there and be looking at you like, and it's like, okay, let's take the stare down, sis.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But I think to anybody who's going through, it's a conversation that you're gonna have to have with your parents. I know you don't want to do it because I didn't want to do it. I cried about it. I talked to different people about it, but at the end of the day, it was like, okay, you're going to have this conversation and make them understand, like, look, this is how I'm feeling. I can't control what's going on between you two, but I need for you all to do X, Y, and Z in order for us to at least coexist. Right. Because at the end of the day, we're still family. We're still, you all are always going to be tied to each other because you have kids together. You're going to have grandkids together. Like, there's no way to get around any of that.
Right. It takes the weight off.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, if the parents don't get along, like Cherie said, I mean, you really do have to sit down and have those type of conversations. And unfortunately, because I had to do it, you really have to, you got to balance that time out to a certain degree, you know what I'm saying, until everybody gets to a happy place. And you almost have to come to a point to where if it never happens, you almost have to be okay with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you'll essentially drive yourself insane trying to make everybody else happy and trying to make them happy. Mm-hmm. You running your knockers off, and you don't really want to do that. But you know, you do have to have those hard conversations, just like they have to have hard conversations with us. But and just really try to stress the issue, like, hey, look, y'all, you know, I know you don't get along. I'm aware of that, but you know what I'm saying, pray about it, you know, think about it. Can you be cordial? Can you not be cordial? You know, things of that nature, and then see what you kind of go from there. I'm not going to say it's not going to be a struggle, but it will be.
Okay, well, that's our 30 minutes.
I got another question.
Here's a question. How would you feel if both or one parent remarries?
Well, look at that. Somebody asked the $1 million question. I don't necessarily have a problem with either one of my parents remarrying. I really don't. My dad has dated. When he first started getting back out there and dating, was it difficult for me? Absolutely. Because I'm a brat. Mm-hmm. I tell anybody I am a brat, and I didn't like some of his choices in women, and I made that known.
Okay, so here's a question to piggyback off the question that we just received. So, say there is a woman that your dad decides he wants to marry. And you stress that you don't like this individual, and he decides to go ahead with marrying her anyway. How would you handle that?
I mean, once I give you my take on it, I'm done with it. Okay. I'm cordial, but that's all I got for old girl. And vice versa. If mama decides to go get married to somebody, she just married somebody I don't really care for, I'm going to tell you. Oh, I'm going to let you know. Okay. And they going to know too, because that's just who I am. Because if it was a reverse for me, and it was somebody I'm dating or married that you don't like to, oh, you best believe Jeff and that is going to be like, I don't like him.
Period. I would go the same way. I think that they both should get remarried. I think at the end of the day, everybody deserves happiness. Nobody should be without happiness. But if I don't like them, I'm with Cherie. Like, I'll be cordial and I respect their decision. You know what I'm saying? That's who you choose to marry. I can't tell you who you can and can't marry. You know what I'm saying? I'll be cordial with you. Now, we ain't gonna be like chopping it up like, oh, you my man's and 100 grands. Yeah, girl, we go way back like 4 flats on the cat. Like, no, we ain't gonna be that type. But I will respect you because that's who my parent, chooses to be with. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. All right. Do anybody else have any other questions before we close this up?
We got some good questions, y'all.
We did.
Got some good questions, and I'm glad this is picking up a little bit. We are learning some things as we go. And I do appreciate you all for tuning in and joining us on the conversation. We're going to have more interesting conversations coming up. And please send your suggestions of topics you would like us to discuss on Wednesdays at 7:30, and we'll make sure we make that happen. Don't forget to follow the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the website and make sure you share with other ladies, because all these talks that we have, it might help somebody along the way. It might enlighten them, and it might be a tool they can use to open dialogue with their children if they've been through divorce or they're going through divorce right now. All right. So we thank you all for tuning in tonight.
I was going to say, let's talk about menopause. That's a good one.
Oh, okay. We can talk about menopause.
I ain't hit that yet.
I'm not at
menopause.
Well, we can talk about that because I'm having one of those right now.
That's good.
Okay, we can talk about menopause. We'll have to get us a little panel together of women who's going through, and we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll get Nanette because she had a hard time when she was going through it.
Ooh, yes.
All right. So thank you all for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.